A message for the world. It is about anxiety. It is about history. It is about how things are going. It is about how things are going to go. Okay, I'd like to read to you first an email I sent regarding some significant development in the means to understand what is happening to the world. And here it is. Because Caucasian societies all over the world needs an advantage against the tide that is ruining us, because time is short. I know and I see where New Zealand is and where it was, and that leads to where we might be. We would all like to have more control, and there are reasons why we humans are like we are. I have deduced this hypothesis over many years, having witnessed countless failures of the academic world and government failing to find an answer and I've deduced this hypothesis. The world is comfortable with the explanation religion gives us, but the problem has been put in the too hard basket. So as of 17/05/2016, it came to me that anxiety is a political entity. The contention is, as a baby, as one that thinks without language, we have become fluent in the politics of anxiety in the first days or even first hours of life. Think about that. The baby thinks without language. What information can it process if the baby does not use language? Because of the nature of anxiety, it comes with an obvious political understanding, and as a child we become experts with this political understanding of anxiety. And throughout life it frames and formats our lives, and you will recognise a great deal about these 8 laws of anxiety because it's all you've ever done. Remember, the baby thinks without language. What does the baby think if it doesn't have language? These are the 8 laws of anxiety. The first law of anxiety is one must conceal one's anxieties. The second law of anxiety is to allow all others to conceal their anxieties. The third law of anxiety is to accept at all times when a person seeks to ignore. The fourth law of anxiety is to accept without question the dishonesty that results from the first 3 laws. The fifth law of anxiety is to at all times acquiesce to they which are expressing the most anxiety. The sixth law of anxiety is never, by way of action, fail to express support for the laws of anxiety. The seventh law of anxiety is one must, at every opportunity, seek to undermine and maintain ongoing disruption for anyone that seeks to challenge the laws of anxiety. The 8th law of anxiety is all people must, at every opportunity, promote anxiety as wisdom. These 8 laws have underpinned all of history, and this hypothesis contends that this is a fact. You all know and recognise what I have just said regarding the 8 laws. This is your life, and this is the only thing you've done. Particularly the first 3. The resultant 5 are a product of the first 3. And it's just simple maths that you have obeyed since being a child. And everyone in the world, and no matter what language, you're born and you do not use language to think, and you have to go through the first days and hours and weeks and years without being able to speak. And so how do you copy everything? Before politics, religion, friendship, nationhood, money, and even before we know language, these 8 laws of anxiety is the first thought and the very foundation of belief and perception, and nothing can be done without the blessing of this political understanding. And as little kids, you know that's exactly the way of life for little kids. Because of the initial omnipotent philosophical acknowledgement regarding anxiety and depression, that was the first understanding. Immediately after birth, the control of this genius algorithm, as indicated by the 8 law hypothesis, has over people has been imprinted on all else that has followed. I know that you have seen, like all people, the 8 laws of anxiety in action tens of thousands of times in your lifetime, as I have. This is all people do. This is all arguments. The 8 laws are the values in play when people argue. You've seen it millions of times. Sport is just, team sports is just a celebration of how we how we do it, right? Sport is just a reflection of it. The hypothesis contends that the 8 laws of anxiety has been governing all outcomes involving communication, and it underpins all financial, emotional, and spiritual philosophy of the entire population of planet Earth. And it all starts because the baby does not use language to think. As you can see from the 8 laws of anxiety hypothesis, you will recognize this is exactly what every person has been doing, and the only thing we've ever been doing. And I believe it explains in detail, down to the quantum level, all the people in the world going back to before organized religion started. Because of this new understanding of perceiving anxiety as a political entity, it's no longer like trying to catch smoke talking about it. You can actually figuratively hold it in front of you, and you can examine the components it uses. And you've also separated anxiety from yourself to do that. So I recommend people think about this, because it allows you to figuratively hold it in front of you and examine it, which is separating it from yourself. Because of this new understanding, I feel it is safe to articulate that it is how the Jewish people historically have gravitated to Caucasian societies, because they have a Talmud perspective and use the 8 laws to infiltrate and overrun cultural pillars of society and maintain their position using finance and an aggressive use of the 8 laws of anxiety. Basically, the Talmud is the sociopath's instruction manual, and the perspective, and they won't disagree with that, They know they're nuts. Their perspective of the 8 laws enables a definitive advantage over others because we value peace. That's important. That is important. Basically, they've been ambushing the mind, or rather the 8 laws has been ambushing the mind, Caucasian people since religion started. And that's significant. When religion started, a lot of things changed. With all sorts of means facilitated by the 8 laws of anxiety, and religion ratifies and validates the 8 laws of anxiety and the Jewish perspective regarding what is reality. So I feel the universe has nurtured me and mentored me my whole life to bring this. It has given it me on Tuesday. That which is there has been by my side always, constantly whispering about the purpose of this journey. This discovery I made on Tuesday, and this is why I'm wanting all of you to know this. It is to right the world from chaos, because the 8 laws, as we experience it, it is causing an 80% reduction in the quality of communication. Keeping in mind that thoughts are communication, right? And everything else follows that. Everything else follows that. And so, because all of academia, all the doctors, psychologists, inquiries, investigations, all the governments, all the fucking, everyone who's ever cared about anxiety has never been able to do anything about it. It's because they are maintaining the dominance of it, because they are going about it without breaking the 8 laws that we get, because as kids we don't use language to think. So this could be, I think, the most significant thing anyone's ever discovered about the human race. And I love you all, and I'm not going to lie to you about anything. And I'm going to push this, and I urge you to think about it and spread knowledge of the 8 laws of anxiety. Because the world needs more druids. The world needs more wisdom. It is the financial system that is overrunning the world. The financial system is the reason the Middle East has had all these wars. The financial system is why we have poor people, because the financial system doesn't allow poor people to start owning land. And the 8 laws of anxiety, when applied to financial philosophy, is why rich people walk past homeless and not even think about it. Where in a Celtic sense, it's immoral to not help somehow. And this is the thing. You've got the religious reality of the world, the Judeo-Christian religion, right? And with the Judeo-Christian religion, you've got these values which is going to end the world up in a nightmare, because I've noticed that the situation in Germany before World War II is exactly like the situation in the US right now. And Donald Trump's saying exactly what Adolf Hitler said. I'm going to create heaps of jobs. I'm going to actually improve the morality of the media. I'm going to put the financial system under control. We're going to be really strong again. This is what Hitler said. This was Hitler's Mein Kampf. This is obvious. And so that it comes to me that the 8 laws of anxiety are mathematically proven by you. You know these 8 laws because this is the only intellectual thing you've ever seen when dealing with an emotional consideration. The 8 laws of anxiety is the only thing you've seen, and I know that it's the only thing you've seen. So having spread the causes of World War II out over the whole Western world, you know what? There's no good outcome for this scrambled eggs, man. We are in very big trouble. I'm James. I love you, and please think about this, and it will be something to your advantage, I believe. I believe it's the most significant thing in the history of people, actually, because the 8 laws of anxiety have multiple anti-tampering measures built into it, and I believe this is why this has never been found before, and it's an actual miracle that I have been able to fight and get through all the anti-tampering measures to deduce how it could be that bazillions of attempts to help people with depression have failed. Suicide rates have never been worse because these fundamental things have never been looked at. And that's why I've boiled it down that this can be the only cause of the situation playing out, and it all starts because the baby does not use language to think. And we agree that we can tell lies, and we're okay with other people telling lies, and we have to, you know, we're allowed to ignore things, and this is only because of our personal philosophy with anxiety. And that brings forth the other 5 laws. The first law of anxiety is one must conceal one's anxieties. The second law of anxiety is to accept at all times others to conceal their anxieties. The third law of anxiety is to accept at all times when a person seeks to ignore. The fourth law of anxiety is to accept without question, which you all do, the dishonesty that results from the first 3 laws. The fourth law of anxiety is to accept without question the dishonesty that results from the first 3 laws. Recognise that? The fifth law of anxiety is to at all times acquiesce to they which are expressing the most anxiety. The fifth law of anxiety is at all times acquiesce to they which are expressing the most anxiety. The sixth law of anxiety is to never, by way of action, fail to express support for the laws of anxiety, going back to first and second. The seventh law of anxiety is one must at every opportunity seek to undermine and maintain an ongoing disruption for anyone that seeks to challenge the laws of the anxiety. The eighth law of anxiety is all people must at all opportunities promote anxiety as wisdom. So I'll put it to you that the people that love the Talmud are using this against the world, and they get their position, and like a very, you know, the Talmud is an algorithmic thing as well, and it's all based, all of this, these 8 laws of anxiety and all of these other religions are all based on the actual composition and character of consciousness. Okay.